Hi, Kylie. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Tell me, first of all, I didn't even ask, where are you joining me from
Oh,
today? Where are you?
yeah,
Tell me.
I'm in Noosa in Queensland, Australia. So, yeah, one of the most popular spots in Australia.
Isn't that so? And I'm so thrilled to have you join me from there. And we've had such interesting, crucial COVID conversations, people joining from absolutely everywhere. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart for agreeing to talk to me and be part of my crucial COVID conversations. I'm so happy to have you. I am personally always inspired and in awe, maybe sometimes a little bit shocked about the stuff that you have done and the stuff that you
Oh, yeah.
continue to do. I mean, you're just such a superwoman. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And
Thank you.
I'll do I'll do a little bit of a bio as we go around as well.
Yeah.
But maybe just a quick little, I guess, a little introduction on how we met. We met, I don't even know how many years ago now, maybe 3-4 years ago, because 2020 doesn't count, you know, we never count that year. It does not go on the record. And we met in the most amazing circumstances in the Solomon Islands. You came to do some fabulous work for us as a writer, travel writer, vlogger, blogger, the whole shebang. And um, a connection started. We share history of love, connection, beautiful stories that kind of always will align our paths, and I think we will always be friends moving forward. And it's such a amazing honor to have you join me today. So I think, I mean, you have done such amazing work, Kylie. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, author, amazing mother, marketer, consultant, beautiful partner, and writer. And you've done just amazing things, and you've tackled issues. And this is really one of the key themes that I personally want to bring out during this crucial COVID conversations. And you're such an amazing soul to talk about these things, because COVID-19 has really brought topics that should have been discussed and should have been out in the open so many years ago. It's really kind of just bang, brought it to the forefront. And here we are, and we're actually okay. And we should be talking to people about these things. Things like, you know, breaking down cultural and racial barriers, you know, talking about female empowerment. You're breaking it down with such flair, sensitivity, passion, and honesty, and sharing your personal stories. You talk about gender-based violence, homelessness, financial independence for us as women. How awesome. And then, you know, you've done such powerful stuff during the COVID-19 crisis. You were one of those fearless women who decided to have a wonderful new baby as well during during this crisis. And I think it's just amazing how you've managed to run the businesses, flourish, diversify, have this amazing family, and still look like you do, and, you know, have this amazing positive spirit. I don't know how you do it, but any case, we'll unpack that. So that's the reason, Kylie, that I'm speaking to you today, and I'm so honored to have you join me. Maybe for those that's, you know, just tuning in and listening to my crucial COVID conversations for the first time, this whole concept was actually born out of a necessity for me personally to contribute, and for me wanting to do good. 2020 was hard. And we all thought, you know, 2021 is going to be all over. Well, it's not. You know, it's still lingering. We are still experiencing some of these issues and challenges, perhaps even to a greater extent. Things like mental health and well-being, you know, the financial crisis is deepening. Vaccines are not happening as quickly as possible. And it doesn't matter how you feel about them, but in general, these things it's just not happening as quickly as we thought. So this really started as me wanting to share amazing stories of inspiration, whether it's about running your business, about who you are personally, and just spreading some goodwill and doing good and sharing the love, because actually we are all in this together. And I'm just speaking to amazing people like yourself. So I wanted to, if you will allow me, just cheat a little bit and do a quick
Do
bio.
anything.
Yes, my show, right? I can do whatever I want. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
So I'm going to just do a little bio because I want people to know just how amazing you are, and you're such a cool friend and human. And so Kylie, you overcame extreme obstacles, wow, including domestic violence, homelessness, paralysis, and other serious health issues. As a single mom, thankfully not anymore, but we'll get to that, to become a multiple international award-winning CEO, keynote speaker, author, blogger, charity advocate in the space of just 3 short years. Wow. Through your work, Kylie, you have won 3 Plutus Awards. You were a finalist in the Young Australian of the Year and runner-up for numerous other business and advocacy awards. Just a wonderful, amazing journey that you've had. You're passionate about helping others turn obstacle into opportunities. And that is exactly what this Crucial COVID Conversations is about, as well as empowering women through financial independence and empowering women to really become the best version of themselves and who they can be. You work with national and international governments and corporations regarding finance, education, empowerment, marketing, charity, various efforts across the globe, really, and specifically public speaking as well. You share ways to make and save money to the Australian mums, but also to mums across the world. I mean, I'm following you through the work that you do through the Thrifty issue, and we'll give the websites afterwards that guys can kind of get involved and learn more about what you do. And you can also find you at kylietravers.com.au. So there's lots of places that we can learn more about who you are and what you do. And this is the best part of it. Oh, in your personal life, Kylie has repartnered. And this is an amazing story. You are balancing multicultural blended family of 6 across 3 countries, Australia, Vanuatu, and the Solomon Islands. Wow. I take my hat off for you. I'm so inspired by you, and I'm so happy to have you join me today. So welcome.
Thank you. That sounds so much when it's laid out like that. I don't.
But it is.
It is.
Own it, girl.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, I mean, let's get your take on this. Let's just get right into it. I mean, I want to talk to you. So tell me in your words who you are and, you know, what gets you out of bed every day. Okay, now we know, baby, but, you know, tell me what gets you inspired.
So yeah, he wakes up. Although Justin, my partner, actually takes care of him mostly for me.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, I'm, as mentioned, very passionate about empowering I'm very passionate about empowering women through financial independence and sharing that. And obviously because of my background and my story, I have a lot of experience in it, and also very focused on gender equality and trying to advance that, particularly in the Solomons and Vanuatu, because as mentioned, that's where my family is. Yeah, and so those are the main things, but everything I sort of do, I structure around family. So like my motto is family first, always. And so everything I've ever done has been about my family, particularly improving the world for my daughters. Yeah. But also, yeah, just making sure that I'm always there available for them because of what they've been through. And also because, like, for me, I feel the only way I can have a strong relationship with my partner is that we're putting our family first and ensuring that our needs are met. And so I structured all my businesses around that. Yeah, so that's mostly what I do.
What gets you out of bed? What gets you excited and passionate about life at the moment? You know, tell me.
Well, I'm pretty tired at the moment because but it's mostly that. Like I love being able to help other people, particularly with their finances, and I love you know, every day when I sort of get up, there's always comments or responses about from different women about how my writing or anything that I've shared has helped them either leave an abusive relationship or to improve their finances or pay off debt or you know, improve their confidence or those sorts of things. And so it's, yeah, that's what it is. It's just seeing the difference that I make every day in just doing what sort of comes naturally to me and what I enjoy. And like even my partner mentioned, he goes, I can tell when you're in the zone because everything else just is gone completely. And I'll be sitting there and I'm like typing furiously, and he's like, I've never seen somebody type as fast as you. And he's like, you're so into it. He goes, and then when you're like, when I'm sharing my ideas with him or whatever, he's like, everything about you like lights up. And I'm like, well, because this is what matters to me. Like, I went through all what I did so that I'd be able to use that to help others. That's how I view it. Like, everything I went through was for a purpose, and now I have so much experience that I can draw on, and I also understand where other people are coming from because I've been through it. So yeah, that's what.
Oof. I mean, we're going to talk more about that, but you just raised something that I just really, and this is free flow. We you know, whatever is on the table, we unpack it, and I just thought about what you said, and this is such an important point through last year as well, because so many people have gone through stuff and are continuing to go through things, and you are sharing your passion for helping others because you've gone through it. So I guess my question is this, Kylie, when you were in it and you were really at your lowest point, which is so many people, so many of us, I mean, I've gone through really low times as well last year. I mean, and we know it's not over yet, whether it's business or personal, whatever. When you're in it, you can't see perspective, and you can't look back at 2020 hindsight. You can't look back and say, okay, well, I'm learning because I'm going to make a difference to somebody else's lives, you know? So when did you realize that this was actually perhaps even a gift, because it steered your journey into a different direction to make a difference? When did that realization come?
It was probably within a year. In terms of the gender-based violence and homelessness and that sort of thing, it would have been within a year, because I was able to leave where I was living, which was Sydney at the time, and go back to Canberra. And then once I was in Canberra, I immediately started charity work. And then because of my story, charities asked if I would share it. And so it was almost straight away sort of thing from moving that I realized, I can use what I've got. But even when I was in the middle of it, I remember when I got, so like a week after leaving my ex-husband, so like he was arrested and everything got really bad, I was robbed of everything, including my underwear. So they broke into our new house. I'm there with my two kids, and like even my underwear was stolen, and I remember being hysterical. And then I sat down and I wrote down a list of why I could be grateful I got robbed, which is something I do every time I'm faced with an obstacle, is writing down what I can be grateful for. And I came up with, I think it was about 14 reasons to be grateful for
even with no underwear, you had 14 things to be grateful for.
Exactly. Well, I was insured, so I was going to buy new underwear that wasn't connected to my marriage. So I was pretty happy about that part. See, blessings everywhere. But like, there ended up being a lot of blessings, because my daughters needed speech therapy and I didn't have the money, and now I had the insurance money to pay for it. And like, there was a lot of blessings. But once I started applying that to every other area of my life, looking for reasons to be grateful, what lessons could come for it, and that sort of thing, and doing it sooner after things happened, it meant each obstacle that I came face to face with, I could much sooner see how it could be beneficial. And so it didn't end up taking, a year. Like when I got paralyzed and things like that, it was easier to see why these things were happening.
So would you recommend people almost in that moment when you feel that it's pretty dark and you can't find perspective, and start writing down, gratitude and what, because the earlier on, the better it is for finding that perspective and start that healing journey, right? Or finding options, opportunities.
Yeah, so I tend to ask myself, like, in those moments, or try to ask myself, I'll be honest, I'm not always perfect at it. People assume I do it with every single one, but no, I have breakdowns too. But I ask myself, what lesson can I learn from this? What opportunities can come from this? And why should I be grateful for each one? There are other times where I just sob on the floor for like a few hours. Like not always perfect at it, but if you try and do that, and I've got like a gratitude journal, so I try and write in there. But yeah, when you're in the thick of it, if you can change your thinking, and having something like a gratitude journal gives you somewhere to write it, it changes perspective. Even if you can't focus on what to be grateful for about the obstacle itself, if you can list even like 3 things of why you can be grateful for something, that will help change your mindset a little bit, and it makes a huge difference in being able to overcome that particular obstacle, for sure.
Here's a tip for our people listening in, literally from all over the world: gratitude journal. How powerful is that? And I should get one, I think. I'm not sure why I don't have one. I do write a lot, I really right
Yeah.
right about it, but I don't have that journal, so I think I should get one.
We actually do. We do grateful every night is what it's called. So when we sit at the dinner table, we go around the dinner table and we say 3 things that we're grateful for. And then we also give a compliment to each member of the family. So that's every night at dinner. So I've tried to incorporate gratitude and that attitude with my daughters from when they were little. And yeah, we always try and make sure we have dinner as a family, and that's part of our evening routine. And it brings up
How
the most
beautiful.
amazing conversations too. Like my daughters will share things that happened during their day more with that. Yeah, and it sort of brings us all closer as a family. So yeah,
What
we
an
call it grateful.
amazing tip. Yeah, there's another tip for people with families, and
Yeah.
doesn't matter what the family looks like or friends. I mean, if
Exactly.
you're having time together, even coffee, I mean, incorporate that. That is
With anyone.
amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. Wow.
That was from my parents. My parents made us do that and I hated it as a teenager. But I've continued it with my own family. So yeah,
But they obviously don't hate it, which is good, right?
No, that's it. They love it. They're really good at it. Whereas I was, my parents started, I think, when I was 16. So, I just hated the world at that point.
That's very true. It's that kind of age, right?
Exactly.
But it worked because you've incorporated that into your life now. And it's such a beautiful
That's it.
concept. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
I like it.
So, okay, let's get to the big one, elephant in the room.
Sure.
What did you learn from 2020? I mean, what? Oh, you've done so much and you've gone through so much.
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Well, 2020 for us was, well, for everybody was obviously a different sort of year, but we learned a lot. I learned a lot, especially because so to give some context, New Year's, we were being evacuated from bushfires in Tasmania. I'm sorry, in Australia. So we were actually in Jarvis Bay. And so we were dealing with all of that. And I was actually house sitting. So we had to get my friends' animals and take them up to where my family lived and sort all of that out. Then within a couple of weeks, we had a double death in Vanuatu that we needed to get back for because they were like, parents to my partner. And whilst we're trying to fly back, Sydney was just chaotic with storms and flooding and all of that. And we nearly didn't get there. And then, we get there and my websites got hacked. And so I lost all my income and we were completely reliant on his family to sort of support us through that month that we were there. And this was just as the pandemic was
Can you please help me out and laugh
and then we
a bit?
flew across to the Solomon Islands. I'm like, I feel like I've already been through my fair share of stuff. I don't need to do all of this. But, it's just how life is. And then, we flew to the Solomons because we were trying to sort out child custody and wanted to meet my stepdaughter because at this point I hadn't actually met her yet, or my partner Justin, his ex, or any of that. And so we flew over there and we were out in Malaita, which is one of the other islands.
Yeah.
And, met his ex and her father and cousins and everybody was so lovely.
Aww.
And then we found out when we came back to Honiara that on the day we were in court, borders closed. So we couldn't actually go back home. And we're like, okay, all right, well, we'll set up a home in Honiara then. And so then we set up home in Honiara and awaited repatriation and then came back to Australia. And when we were trying to repatriate, it wasn't working. The whole week it was not working. We couldn't get flights. We were trying to fly into Sydney because you could choose Sydney, Brisbane, and it just wouldn't process and it wasn't working. And then a few hours before flights closed, we've gone, we'll just go to Brisbane instead and we'll set up on the Sunshine Coast like we always planned to. Yeah. Because we were meant to be traveling for 3 years was our plan. And then we were going to have a child at the end of that 3 years. Which obviously we chose.
Right.
So, we had all of that and then, set up when we repatriated. So we reset up houses twice and that was just from January to May. Sure. And so I learnt that we can face anything and overcome anything because, I apparently hadn't learned that lesson enough already with everything else I'd been through. But it very much strengthened like my partner and I and our family in general. We learned that, we could overcome anything and how to overcome anything. We learned how each of us is under pressure. Due to the issues with my business, I actually lost 70% of my income for those few months, which was quite intense because we were fairly reliant on mine. Yeah. And my backup income was travel journalism, which, screeched to a stop, like a massive halt when the pandemic. So we sort of learned that we needed to divert strong need for a home base. I never have. I don't view anywhere as my particular home. I didn't care if I had one, but Justin and my girls very much need and want somewhere to call home. So they wanted us to buy here in Queensland. Right. And so there's all of that. And I also learnt how bad the internet connection can be on the outer islands in the Solomons, even though I should have known that because I'd been 4 times. But and how reliant my business was on me instead of, like, I should have outsourced more. And so in the second half of the year, we restructured a lot, and I trained up some more people and, you know, changed things, because we also, as I said, brought forward the baby plans, and we brought forward the property plans and all this sort of stuff. And like with the baby, I was actually having massive health issues at the time when we were in the Solomons, and I was informed that if I wanted a child, it should be now. I might not be able to if I wait too much longer. And so we've gone, okay. And it took 18 months to fall pregnant with my first daughter in my first marriage. And then I've gone to Justin, I'm like, this is the situation, you know, we might not be able to. And he goes, it'll be fine. I was pregnant straight away, which I did not expect at all. Like, it was like, instant. I was like, let's have a baby. Okay. And so when we got back to Australia, he was like, I think you're pregnant. I'm like, there's no way I'm pregnant. And he's like, you're definitely pregnant. Your mood has changed. And that sort of thing. So he knew before I did. But yeah, we learned that we really have to be quite adaptable. And also we learned a lot about communication with all of us. Because, you know, and particularly because we're then in the position where we're juggling everything here in Australia, our family in Vanuatu, his ex and daughter in the Solomons, and, you know, business and all this sort of stuff. And we're having to look at and consider things like the visa. And then also too, when we were here, we faced extreme racism, which we did not expect, because in the islands, everybody was like super psyched about our relationship because it's, you know, interracial. And my older daughters are islanders as well. So they look at us and think we've been together forever. And people tell Justin how much his daughters look like him, and he just goes, yes. And,
yeah, these are my kids.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like they look like they could be his. Yeah. And they
for
love
sure.
that aspect. Yeah, they love that. And so yeah, we had to learn a lot about communication and business, and just changing how we viewed everything, but also really being strong and supportive for each other, because I'm there a hormonal mess because I'm pregnant, and then facing the racism and the business issues and all of that. So yeah, we learned a lot, but it reinforced things too, very much about how important family and communication are to me, and also self-care. So I had let my self-care and confidence very much slide, and towards the end of 2020 we noticed how that was impacting every area of our life, and that we really needed to focus on me and improving my mental health and taking care of me. And like Justin and the girls have been amazing helping me with that. So yeah, so those are lots of lessons that we had in 2020 that I didn't feel I needed, but apparently did.
Yes, what did they say? You're only given what you can deal with, even though we don't see it. But Kylie, I mean, that is amazing. I mean, again, I want to commend you and applaud you for giving us a platform to be able to talk about these things, and also you being open about them. I love that. So thank you so much, because this is so important. And you know, it is something that's really near to me. I mean, there are so many topics that forms part of these crucial COVID conversations, but you've just touched on 2 of them as well, which is a really mental health and wellness, and then also this whole issue of diversity, inclusion, equity. I mean, it came to the forefront with an absolute bang during the crisis, and we all looked at America, and we looked at what was happening there, and we were shocked and really really disturbed. I think that nothing like what we saw has disturbed the whole world to that extent, and we saw so many people standing up for what is right, and I'm wondering, did that whole incident and what we've learned, and thankfully it's come to the forefront and people are making different choices. People are taking the time to ask questions, try and understand. It's not just about judgment, but it's about what we're doing right now. Tell me what you've gone through. Tell me how you've dealt with it. Tell me why we should listen. You know, those types of discussions that didn't happen before, you know, and should have happened so many years ago, you know. So thank you for bringing it up. And tell me, did it make that whole bringing it to the forefront? You guys were living and breathing it in a country like Australia when these things were happening in other places in the world. Did it make it easier or harder because the topic was out there? You know, did you find people more accepting, more understanding, or what? Tell me.
It was mixed. Like, it's it was definitely easier in the islands than it was in Australia. Particularly where we are, is very Caucasian. So we get stared at on the streets.
Really?
We've had people like stop. We've had some really horrible accusations like thrown at us and said about Justin and stuff like that. Yeah, because people are very, in some of the places that we've travelled through, very against Aboriginals. And they thought that he was Aboriginal despite the massive islander tattoos, and you know, he's from Vanuatu. But it was interesting. Like in some ways, I think it made it slightly more difficult because there were some incidences at my daughter's school within her first couple of days that really was quite shocking and confronting for her, and she stood up against it. And the school actually changed their policies and did some new training and spoke to all the kids and did a lot more around racism and sexual harassment and that sort of stuff, because she was like, "This is no, I'm not going to have this."
Good for her.
And it was terrifying because she was 11. Yeah,
yeah,
so
but it's not
11,
good to go through that. No, for sure. But
but she was like, "This is not okay and not acceptable." And she knew too, like she was confident enough to do that because she knew I would back her no matter what. She knew that I would be right behind her, supporting her in what it was.
Well done, Mom.
So I think in some areas it's been easier. Thank you. It's been easier in some areas, but also yeah, quite confronting, particularly for my daughters, because I think up until this point they'd sort of flown under the radar a fair bit. They're typically what's classed as white passing, meaning that they are Islander, but a lot of the time people will assume that they've got more of a Caucasian background or that sort of thing, unless we're all walking together as a family. But yeah, but a lot of it, I think, like it needed to happen. It was very beneficial in that sense. I think it's made a lot of people think more. For us as a family, at times it was really stressful because we faced racism we didn't expect to face, and looking how I look, I've sailed through life and not faced a lot of this. I did in my first marriage as well face some racism because he was half Tongan, half Maori, and at times with my daughters, like people didn't believe I was their mum and stuff like that. But this is the first time where we really experienced it so strongly, I guess. And I think part of that is because everything was brought to the surface, but it also provided some good opportunities for us to, I guess, have those conversations and teach other people, but also within our family to be a lot more open about it, but particularly for me to learn a whole lot more about what my daughters have to face and what Justin has faced that I just haven't had to, and I can never fully understand. But yeah, we've spent a lot of time on learning more about particularly the culture in Vanuatu and the Solomon Islands. But yeah, I think it's a good thing that it happened, and I think it's good that there's more conversations and that sort of thing happening. And it was definitely interesting being a diverse family during that time period. Well, even now, like
yeah, for sure. I'm sure some of these inherent prejudices and biasness would not go away overnight. But the most important thing is what we're doing right now. You know, we are communicating, we are helping people see perspective, and even if we can just touch one life, whether it's with domestic violence or conservation or mental health and well-being or diversity, you know, we are doing something good. Because, you know, I do feel, and I talk to a lot of people that help us see things in a different way, people that, you know, focus on mental health and wellness or conservation or whatever, and there is a feeling of a shift happening, and there is a feeling of we have to change. We can't continue do things the way we have before. You know, COVID's changed that.
Absolutely. And like I noticed too that there were some more things in Australia in particular. It's always kind of been covered up that there was the terms called blackbirding, which is where Australia did actually take people from the Solomons and from Vanuatu and Melanesian cultures and brought them over to work in the cane fields and stuff. And that, for a lot of Australians, they had no idea. That was not taught in history. I knew of it, but actually my partner is a direct result of that. He has ancestors that were brought over, and it's a few generations back that his like great-grandmother type thing was one of them, and he's the direct descendant of that, but ended up back in Vanuatu. And so he did spend some time up in Townsville, which is where a lot of them were taken and that sort of thing. And it was interesting seeing the conversations that were happening both within our family and trying to connect with his ancestors, but also how many Australians have become aware of this practice. They didn't know it was happening. And then the current seasonal worker program that is in
Yep.
place, a lot of Australians are advocating
Yep.
for them to get paid better wages and to have better conditions and
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. Whereas,
Yep.
you know, 12 months ago, people didn't care. They had absolutely no concept of that. But once COVID happened and then Australians suddenly had to do this work, they were like, that's hard work. They should be paid more. Like the conditions there are terrible and this sort of thing. And so there's quite a shift just in that alone of people becoming
But that's
aware.
great. You know, that is great because it is about being aware of things. Because, you know, once you know, ignorance is bliss because you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's going on. But once you have the information and once you understand, it becomes your personal choice whether you ignore that or whether you understand and you do something or you. So it becomes personal then, you know. If you don't know, okay, it's somebody else's problem. But once you know, it becomes personal. And that's the power of these things. It's about education and sharing experiences and foster and cultivate understanding, you know, so that people can make that personal choice. Because now that you know, you can't be blasé or ignorant about it anymore, you know. You have to make that decision saying, okay, well, I'm going to do this or this, but it's your choice now because you know.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing with my daughters, because they have so much of this knowledge. When these issues came up at school, they're like, no, hold up. this.
Yeah.
And then and they were talking to their friends about blackbirding and stuff like that. And they were like, what? And they're like, yeah, my stepdad, they actually knew about it before that anyways. But yeah, the conversations that have opened up, and I've actually had some of the parents from the school say to me, they're like, we had no idea about any of this. Your kids just know so much. And I'm like, well, they've lived it. I said, that's why. But yeah, the parents have been really appreciative of how my daughters have approached it. It's never judgmental. It's always just, you need this knowledge and then you need to go away and think about, why you shouldn't say those terms or why, this sort of thing. And it's never, it's not judgmental conversations, it's good. It's interesting to overhear them sometimes. My daughter's talking to others about these topics, but yeah, I think it's good how everything's come about and that we're having those conversations. And the people like myself who, even though I'm, those around me are living it, I'm learning a lot from them.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key. People should just be, it ultimately doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but it doesn't matter what you take away. But as long as you have the opportunity to be able to listen and understand. And then again, what we've just said, it becomes your responsibility what you do with that information. And at the end of the day, I think everybody wants to do good. Everybody wants to be I mean, if anything, the COVID crisis really also showed me the good things. It showed me that we are all in this together and humanity can stand together and fight a common threat, and whether it was the virus or some of the other things that came out. So there is good in people, and it's about how you approach it. And what you said about your daughters are actually amazing, because it's how they approach it, and it wasn't a fight, or it wasn't to do harm, but it was just to educate. And then you make that decision, and kudos for you, because you are the one that has instilled these values and have given them this amazing opportunity to start thinking about things logically. So well done, you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, it's such, and I'm so happy that we're getting to talk about this, because this is one of the key topics that I want to bring out during these crucial COVID conversations. And you guys have lived and breathed it intimately, and you still are, and it's important that we talk about these things. So I guess that leads me to the next question, and I know you and I can talk for days on these things.
We can.
So I just want to for the listeners, I don't want to get this to go on too long. So let's go back to the question.
Sure.
What do you look forward to in 2021? I mean, what are the things that you think is going to be cool this year, and what are you looking personally forward to?
I'm looking forward to people being a lot more united and understanding, and actually taking those lessons from 2020 and implementing them, and being more understanding of each other, and particularly for people such as myself, listening more to and taking the time to learn more about other people's experiences, because whilst I've faced a lot of obstacles, the way I look means I've had a pretty crazy life in other ways. And I'm looking forward to, I think, stronger connections that people are going to be making, because we've been so isolated for so long, and we've had to change how we do everything. And so those sorts of things, but also it's been fascinating for me to watch and be part of the things happening in the islands. So like just at the end of last year, Vanuatu graduated from being one of the least developed countries in the world to being a developing country. And so to do that like in the pandemic, and they had their 40-year anniversary and all this sort of stuff last year. And so being so closely connected now to Vanuatu, that was amazing to see. And then also like the charities that I'm doing some work with over there, like there's the Vanuatu Feminist Library, there's Sister, there's Mama Life, like all these charities that are doing heaps to you know, improve life for women over there and to teach everybody. And seeing that shift happening has been amazing. And then touching base with you know, like our family over there and hearing what it's actually like there and the changes that are happening there. And same in the Solomons, like, you know, we're obviously in touch with Justin's ex and his daughter and that sort of thing, and all our friends and stuff over there. But like seeing those actual changes and how those countries are preparing you know, for when borders open and that sort of thing, because they really, as you know, like, I mean, you know, you've got heaps to do in the Solomons, but like those countries really could have suffered. I mean, they are suffering, but it could have been even more so. And one of the things I'm finding really interesting is how much people are learning from those sorts of countries as well, how they've sort of gotten through the crisis and the changes that they've made and how they protected their countries and closed the borders early and you know, how they've sort of diversified, and also how they're countries that have been fairly reliant on aid from like Australia and New Zealand and connections with China and that, and how they've adjusted those relationships through COVID and those sorts of things. So I'm finding all of that very, very interesting, and how much countries such as New Zealand and Australia are learning from them as well, instead of it always being the other way around. So I'm looking forward to see more of that implemented, you know, like, so those are my
That's such an
things.
interesting,
I think it's
very
interesting. More compassionate.
Compassion, yes, kindness and compassion.
It's been interesting to watch. But yeah, it's been interesting to watch how that's sort of gone about and be involved in the conversations and that. And yeah, people are approaching it with, I feel like it used to be, it still is partially, but very a colonized view, if that makes sense, like the white people going in to save the everybody else. And I feel like that's shifting a bit, because you know, a lot of people have sort of realized that actually no, they have a lot of knowledge that we should be learning from, and not just, I feel like a lot of people sort of dive in and go, I'm going to save the world, without paying attention to what's already there and what's working there and what we could implement and that sort of thing. And I'm seeing that even with you know, like firefighting in Australia, for example, the traditional methods that have been used for, you know, 40,000-50,000 years, they work for a reason, you know. And so like there's more places around Australia that are actually taking that on board and listening to the traditional owners of the land and incorporating that. And I feel like that's a definite shift that's starting to happen, where people are listening more to the, you know, traditional owners of the land of whatever country it is, and taking that on board, instead of just being, you know, England conquering the world. Type thing.
That's very interesting, Kylie, and I do agree, because I think there is a shift happening. I mean, talking to people and just looking at trends, global trends, and how the world has not just changed, but how it will continue to change, and how people are now feeling, maybe empowerment is not the word, but perhaps more educated, so that they can be making more informed choices on the other side, whether it is where they travel to, how they interact with people from different cultures, different diverse backgrounds, what choices they make in terms of if they even do travel, and what is going to be important for them, you know, how do they take care of themselves, how do they take care of others around them, and also how do they understand the value of these communities. Some of these, you know, I always refer to the Solomons as one of the last world frontiers left on planet Ocean. How do we understand the value that these communities throughout the world have, and how their perspective and what they bring sometimes is, well, many times it is actually critical for us to help protect the planet, help to protect our resources moving forward. We have to listen. It's the same thing. We have to start, you know, incorporating a holistic approach and listening to everybody to be able to make the best choices moving forward for ourselves, but for our the survival of us as a species, you know, and the survival of our planet. We have to. We don't have a choice anymore. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's great.
No, and
go ahead. Yeah, please share.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, like I actually found it fascinating because, you know, having spent, you know, a fair bit of time now in the Solomons and Vanuatu and a little bit of time in Fiji and that, and because each time I do, I'm generally staying with locals. I'm not staying in the resorts and stuff like that. Like in Vanuatu, we just stay with the family, obviously. But learning about the some of the traditional medicines and those sorts of things. And so I actually have a reoccurring medical condition that in Australia I'll just get antibiotics for or whatever, and I hate getting antibiotics. And it was fascinating learning over there, like, you know, this grass can be used for that and this thing can be used for that. And it actually cleared up my issues. Like as soon as it would come up, because it's due to stress that a few things will happen. And as soon as they happen, if I had these drinks or whatever, like within 24 hours, I'm fine. Whereas antibiotics would take like 3 to 5 days to clear it up.
Exactly.
And it's those sorts of things where I think, you know, like there's so much to learn that we've sort of dismissed or hidden or like that's what I'm looking forward to more coming out as well. Those sorts of
things. Yes, because you know what? People are open towards it a bit more now than we were 24 months ago, and rightfully so. Absolutely. You know, rightfully so.
Yeah.
So I want to, you know, just talk a little bit more about your personal journey in terms of your resilience, your positivity, your perspective. And of course, none of us are perfect. We all, and in your case, you've taken all these challenges and really used it to objectively move forward and make those decisions to not only help yourself, but also help others. And, you know, I'm so inspired by what you stand for, Kylie. I mean, for me, you're a super power woman, a survivor, and, you know, your personal journey is just so amazing. So as you take on these learnings of not just you diversifying yourself and overcoming these amazing challenges in 2020, but what tips do you have for us, and even for us as women, to help us inspire and find those resources that will help us cope with 2021, because it is still going to be difficult?
It is. It's going to continue this way for some time. And yeah, it's, for me, one of the key things is actually self-care and self-confidence and focusing on ourselves. That's sort of what helped me change everything before. And interestingly enough, only a couple of days ago, Justin and I were talking about this because I had a total breakdown because, you know, hormonal after just having a baby and that sort of thing. And I'm like, I'm not coping. And we, you know, discussed a bunch of things. And then I realized that all the stuff that I did right before I became really successful with the company and all the awards and all that sort of stuff. And then actually right before I met him, there was sort of like a few moments where I sort of like spiked really high, where I got all the awards, and then I sort of dipped and then came back up like right before I met him and stuff. And it was interesting because I said to him, you know, I used to have I call a miracle morning. I said, which I'd read about elsewhere, but basically it was like I'd have an hour to myself in the morning, you know, before the kids got up, and I would meditate, I would do yoga, I would write in my journal, I would read, I would make sure I drank a liter of water, I would, you know, have breakfast, a proper breakfast with my kids and all this sort of stuff. And I had it, you know, and Ho'oponopono was a practice. So it's a Hawaiian forgiveness practice that I would do, and gratitude and all of that. And that's how I started my day. And that really set me up. And I think those sorts of practices are missing in most people's lives, and particularly us as women. We sort of get up and then, you know, might check our phones or whatever and get the kids up straight away, or like if we don't have kids, we're rushing off to work or our business or whatever, and we're not taking that time for ourselves at all. And so that's a huge one. And there's things like I used to do daily affirmations. So when things were really, really bad, my favorite one was, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. And that's by Carl Jung. And it was like, just, I would say that on repeat when I wasn't coping and I was sobbing. I would just have that, like I would say it out loud over and over again, because I needed that to be true. And so I actually had it made into a metal cuff. I still have the cuff that I would wear on my wrist to remind me that, you know, like I am not what happened to me and what I choose to become. And so that's something that I think, especially with how the world is, that we can all use and apply. And so there's those sorts of things. Visualization is a big one for me, which I mentioned to you recently, and I'm going to share it if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like Okay. So I only told Belinda, I only told you recently, but I've always used visualizations to sort of help me achieve my goals and that sort of thing. And right at the end of, so we met in 2018, because it was towards the end of that, I was struggling. I was in court over custody with my ex-husband. I was also in court over a fresh protection order against him because he was very violent, and there was issues at the time with that, and I was just completely depleted, and I was like, I need a break. And then I got invited last minute on this this trip to the Solomons as a rider, which happened to be, the Solomon Island Discovery Cruises. And at that point in my life, I was so flat. I was trying really hard to just get through what I was getting through, but I had done a lot of inner work and that sort of thing. But on this trip, we got to Money Bay, I think it was, and that's where I could see like my future sort of thing, in the sense that experience there I took back with me. And whenever I got stressed out going through this custody process or going through the protection order process, I would just focus on my daughters and I being on the Solomon Island Discovery Cruise at Money Bay, and I could see my daughters out there playing in the canoes with the other kids.
Wow.
And playing on the rope, and in my mind I was standing there and enjoying this trip, which I've still promised them we're still going to go on it at some point, but that's what got me through. And so whenever custody sort of came up or stressed me out, I would bring this vision, because that vision for me, that visualization, was after I had custody, because my daughters weren't allowed to travel during this time period. They were on the do not fly list because of the court orders and stuff like that. And so, by having that visual, I was able to strongly focus and to feel all the emotions that I would feel when I had custody and that sort of thing. And so visualization to me, it doesn't necessarily have to be, the specific thing that feelings after. Setting is a big one, so being really clear on your goals and knowing what it is that you want. I write mine in permanent marker on my mirror. I change my passwords. I create a vision board. It comes off the permanent marker if you rub it with window spray or whatever, but permanent marker means it won't wipe off, because whiteboard marker, just wipe, so it makes it permanent. Makes it more real. Wow. Those sorts of things. So I sort of all of that, but the realization for me was that those are the sorts of things that I need to get back to and to focus on, because I've really struggled, my whole life with body issues and eating issues, which I'm about to share on my websites. I've been quite quiet about it, but it was very obvious to Justin, some of these issues that I had that relates directly to mental health. And my previous partners, like my ex-husband, didn't notice. My ex-boyfriend before Justin didn't really notice. In fact, he probably made it worse. And then Justin very quickly noticed, and so he took it upon himself to cook for me. So he cooks breakfast every morning. He asks what I want, even if I don't want anything, he'll make something, and he's like, it's there if you want it, and that sort of thing, and just being supportive. And so also I think finding that support network and those people that are going to support you through those things, but acknowledging what it is that you need to do to improve your mental health and what you need to do to improve, self-love and care and confidence and those sorts of things. So those are the main things that I would sort of, I guess, recommend and focus on for this coming year, particularly as women, because I think we put everybody else first, and then we end up empty. And my daughters are 11, almost 12 and 13, and they can tell you, they notice straight away if I'm not taking care of myself, and I'm a better mother, a better partner, better at my business, everything I am better at when I'm taking care of myself. And so that's our focus as a family, because they're all fairly well taken care of. And we all sort of noticed that I've not been taking care of myself, and so that's what we need to do. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing my miracle morning. I've reset my goals, doing a new vision board. I've got my affirmations written up, and all those sorts of things. And I will be sharing it all online, because I'm a pretty open person. And I ran this past Justin first off, because some of them includes pictures of him and I early on. So I'm like, you look like you've been, cut out of marble here. You're very defined, and I'm like a blob next to you. Because I actually checked my weight. So when we met, I was 15 kilos heavier than what I was 10 days after I'd given birth this time. And that was because I was quite stressed with court and everything like that.
Of course.
And once I won custody and once Justin and I were like traveling together and that sort of thing, it just dropped off. Like all the way it dropped off because I was, you know, looking after myself a bit more.
Yeah.
And then it started to creep back on when I started to neglect myself. And so, yeah. like
it's that intricate relationship, isn't it? It's all got to do with mental health and well-being. And oh wow,
absolutely.
such
and it's amazing.
Things.
Like it's amazing how all of that interlinks. And it's, even with finances too, that's the other thing I've noticed. When I'm neglecting myself, my finances drop off and my business suffers and that sort of thing. And so so I feel fortunate though that like Justin is so supportive and helpful and understanding, even though he doesn't understand what I do business wise and like so many of these things like Ho'oponopono and like, you know, the gratitude practice and the miracle morning, all of that. He's like, that's real white, meaning that he hasn't experienced any of that growing up in the islands. We have quite different backgrounds, but he's so open to all of it. Which really, really helps. And he's willing to do whatever practices that I want to do. And it makes a difference having that support.
Yeah, Kylie, but isn't that such a beautiful beauty? And I love the South Pacific, as you know. I mean, this place stole my heart many, many years ago. And I love the people and I love the vibrance and the attitude. And what you've just said is just really sums it up for me, where people are understanding. It doesn't mean they understand it, but they're open to it. And that openness, and I think that's another thing that we can all learn from many developing communities, whether it is Africa or Southeast Asia or the Pacific.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you understand or even agree, but be open and be okay with it. Why does there have to be judgment coming through? And that's a beautiful thing that I've learned from the people in the Pacific is, you know, it's okay. You know, it's all right. I'm curious. I want to know. I don't understand it, but it's okay. I just want to. I want to just. I'm okay with it. Doesn't matter. You know, how amazing is that?
And that's one of the things I've loved. Oh, it's so good, and I've loved it. And that's one of the things that they said about me, because I, as you know, ask a million questions. Like I'm constantly talking, and that's one of the things the feedback was. And I think it's one of the reasons our relationship has worked so well is because we've been so open about each other's cultures and learning. And also, like, his family have been amazing with teaching me, and you know, our friends and family in the Solomons too. Like I could ask anything, and they felt comfortable enough to ask anything too, even things that might be considered really basic or even sometimes borderline racist. Some of the things that may have been asked, and because it's not meaning to be racist, it's trying to understand. But we're comfortable asking each other because we know there's no judgment on whatever is said.
And how powerful is that, having unconditional love and no judgment and accepting who you are. Doesn't matter if I agree. And if there is a takeaway for people in the world right now, there you go, right there. That's important.
Well, that's actually our family motto, is approach everything with love. I have it written in gold permanent marker on a mirror, and that's what we aim for, is that for every area.
Absolutely love that. So inspiring. So okay, well, I guess we have to wrap up. I'm sorry, but I would love to, you know, maybe we need to have a part 2, and we need to come back and then talk more about perhaps some of these, I mean, the real critical issues that can be so important for some of us as you know, for us as women, you know, those things that's got to do with perhaps the domestic violence and the learnings through that and things like that, and what we still need to unpack, and maybe we should have a second session here, Kylie, is that whole the tips and the resources you share in terms of financial independence, and you know, what is it, you tell your story and give us tips and resources. So maybe I think we should have a session 2. I would love to have you come back, you know, and do some more stuff. Yay. Okay, so
happy to.
So before people could still obviously find you, and so give me a couple of things here before we wrap up completely. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me. It was so inspiring to hear you, and I learn all the time when I speak to you, because there's just such things that I didn't go through, and things that I want to learn more about, and this is exactly why this crucial conversation is so important. So tell me, where is the best place that people can find you? How can we, you know, connect with you? How can we learn more about your inspirational work that you have done, and how can we get involved in the stuff that you do?
Sure. Well, in terms of financial side of things, the thriftyissue.com.au, and all the social media, so like Facebook, there's a Facebook group, Instagram, I'm on all of it, and you know, you'll find me in all of those sorts of places, and I respond to everything. So there's that, or otherwise under kylietravers.com.au, I'm going to be sharing a whole lot more. I sort of took a bit of a break after I won custody in that, but I'm going to be sharing more about like mental health, confidence,
Awesome.
business, and some of the projects that we're doing as a family around diversity and our different cultures and that sort of thing. And again, like the social media connected to them. So like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of them, they all have, yeah, I'm on all of them. So yeah, those are the two main spots.
And you are amazing at responding. I know that, I mean, you are phenomenal.
Oh,
thank you so much for everybody that's listened. I know that there is more questions and there's more stuff. We're going to have another session, but Kylie, from my side, I love you, and you're such a beautiful friend, and we will always be connected to the heart because of the experiences that we've gone through together and what we mean to each other. And thank you so much for this beautiful crucial COVID conversation, and I'm looking forward to again chat to you soon to unpack more. What we will do is we'll share the websites, both of them, when we launch and we go live and we premiere with our crucial COVID conversation, so people can find you and they can you know, get involved and share their stories as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You take care and good luck with the next one.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.